Can I join you? Oh, I need an invite.
Oh, you need a game invite? What's going on here? There we go. What's up, guys? KAMIKAZE-FOX coming to you from SRL F1 2019 on the PS4 platform. This is Season 5, Round 20 at Suzuka. I got Erik Penninton with me, as always. Our driver and strategic analyst moving into today's race. Robbie, seriously, give me my cord. I'm having issues with my cat. Alright. Suzuka heading into today's race, coming off of an exciting Singapore Grand Prix where we saw first-time winner and pole sitter Andrea Latrella, the Italian, taking his maiden win from pole position. Dennis Carenchis took his maiden podium, finishing in second. Cameron Weston-Edwards came home third. It was his fifth podium of the season. Sandro Dulius was fourth. Colin Higgins had a great run at Singapore to fifth. Dion Stahl was sixth. Robin Herderstag seventh. Nick Van Gelder was eighth. Sam Brandt ninth. And Ivan Brito was 10th. Reese March was the last running car on track, while 12th through 16th were all DNS. And that was a very uncharacteristic race from Jensen Randall. Jo Marusic, Yannick Verpaten, Brian Power, and Jan Holm. And unfortunately for Brian Power and Jan Holm, 10 and 13 DNFs respectively heading into today's race. Looks like Andrea obviously capitalized last week from the lack of the big hitters. Luke Mathiasen and Tim Ventic weren't on track, but the display that he put on last week really spoke loudly of his performance. Do you think we'll see possibly more of the same heading into today's race from him?
It's hard to say. I don't think it's going to be like a 40-second win because we have the top runners joining with us here today, but he has shown in the league of SRL that he's here to fight, and definitely top 3 driver, but I don't think that 40-second win would be possible right now because we have Tim Ventic and the others driving now. So, but still, it was impressive drive.
Let's run down the driver lineup. What we have so far: Sam Brandt will be in the Haas, Sandro Dulius in the Ferrari as always. Ivan Brito joining us once again from PTRL, it's Portuguese Racing League. Reese March will be in the other Haas. Jensen Randall in Mercedes. Brian Power Racing Point. Colin Higgins in the Renault. Cameron Weston-Edwards with us again today in McLaren. Jan Holm in the Toro Rosso. Tim Ventic coming back after missing last week's race. Jo Marusic in the Red Bull. Dion Stahl in the Ferrari, and then we've got Season 2 champion Alex Benarichetti in the Alfa Romeo, and Nick Van Gelder. And it looks like we might be waiting on a couple more guys. It'll be 14 drivers for today's Grand Prix. I think we're waiting on a couple more guys to show up. But going into today's race, obviously Suzuka, I think we did an IRL race a couple weeks ago. Very challenging track. It's long, it's one groove, it's hard to pass. What's the strategy going into today's race?
Softs. We're gonna look softs to mediums here today. Easy softs to mediums.
And how long would those softs run on the opening stint?
Around 11 to 13 laps, and then you'll take the mediums and drive the rest 14, 13 laps with them, and should be pretty simple. Yeah, 11, 13 laps, and then 13, 14 laps with the mediums.
And obviously Suzuka, very long track. Got a couple of hard corners here, and there's not a lot of passing opportunity. Obviously turn 1 in the opening lap is usually pretty chaotic, but it's very much a one groove track. And then you head up the S's. Where's your best passing opportunities coming into today's race?
Corner 1, and then corner 10, which is the hairpin, and then 1 to the R. Those are 3 overtaking places in the track, and those are the only ones basically where you can do a risk-free overtake.
I'm certainly looking forward to today's race. Season 5 of SRL winding down. We've got one race after this. It'll be Brazil as we finish off the season. But just to recap it a little bit, Tim Ventic clinched the championship quite a few rounds ago. I think it was round 16 where he finally was able to clinch the championship. But it hasn't made for a lack of exciting racing. And unfortunately, I mean, after last week's race, which was very entertaining, we don't have Andrea on the looks like on the driver grid right now. We're also missing Luke Mathiasen, so Tim Vente could very well walk away with a very easy win, but that leaves up for grabs second and third. I mean, from what you've seen in the last few weeks, who do you think has the potential to walk away with a podium today?
Well, of course, Tim Ventek is one, and I believe Sandro Dulia. He was in a very good position in Singapore at least before the rain kicked in, and yeah, and then Jensen 12th in Mercedes. Those are, in my opinion, drivers who might fight for podium and wins today.
Well, interestingly enough, Sandro did win this race last year, and he also won Season 1, so he's a two-time winner here. Francis McGinn won back in Season 2. Unfortunately, he hasn't been with us this year. He had a great season last year. And Yannick Verpayten won last season's race, but a bit of a controversy around that because Yannick found a lot of pace towards the end of the season last year. And it turns out Yannick he pulled a Daniel Abt. He wasn't exactly racing for himself. He had somebody racing in his place. And Season 3, that unfortunately, he had to serve a ban for Season 4. But he's made it back in Season 5. Robbie, stop attacking my cord. God damn it, go, shoot.
How did he get caught? Just curiosity.
Well, I mean, it was through 3 races that he found this unprecedented uptick in speed. He had a great race at Suzuka, he had a good race at Monaco, and there was just a little bit of, coming to question, like, where did you find this pace? And after watching a couple of live streams, kind of like a before and after, seeing where he was making his turn-ins, where he was making his hitting his braking points and picking up throttle acceleration and this, that, and the other. It was just that there was too much disparity between the before and after. It was not a gradual uptick in performance. It was, I'm fighting for 10th one week, and the next week and 3 weeks in a row, I'm fighting for the win. And it was just...
Oh, it's fair enough.
and eventually, I mean, we did, the stewards did a good job of, looking into it, and Yannick was very graciously complicit throughout the whole ordeal, and served his penalty, and he's been back. He's also been doing the SRL Sports Car Series on Project Cars 2, so... but it looks like we do have 14 drivers today heading into today's race. A little overcast for qualifying.
Yeah, we might not be surprised if we see some rain in the end of the qualifying, or maybe the rain is going to come in the beginning of the qualifying, because we have seen that also a few times in this game that it doesn't say it's going to rain, but when you see weather like this, the rain is going to come boom immediately after 1 minute. So you have to prepare for everything, actually.
Well, and speaking of that, I think we ran into that issue, was it last week at Singapore, that it unexpectedly rained in the middle of the race, and we thought we were going to have a dry race, and then it was rained, and then it was gone.
Yeah, I always expect the unexpected. That's the thing. But quickly about Japan, 18-corner track, very, very demanding track, and basically Sector 1 is your key goal of doing here today. So if you mess up the Sector 1 in qualifying, you might throw your lap to the garbage bin. So Sector 1, the first 6 turns are very important in this track.
And obviously those S's are very crucial. Again, a particular part of the track, I know we talked about it a couple of weeks ago for IRL, Sector 2 being very much key at Brazil. Japan very much the same way. Sector 1 is key. That's where you gain all your time or lose all your time throughout the course of the lap. So
yeah, exactly. Which is funny because most of the track Sector 1 is not such a big deal. I think Japan might be the only track where Sector 1 really, plays a big role in setting your qualifying lap.
And it looks like we've got pretty much everybody on an out lap right now on the soft tires, with the exception of Alex Benoricetti. He's going to go out on the mediums, possibly putting in just a banker lap, seeing how the car feels, maybe switch to softs later in the session.
Yeah. Only one driver at the moment with mediums. Like I said, he was the Alfa Romeo driver, so everybody knows it's softs to mediums. So yeah, and the tires don't actually go that quickly around here either, so it's very easy on tires. Also, so
let's see, we are going to pick up, looks like maybe Jensen Randall's going to be the first one to come across the line and start a hot lap. Now Jensen Randall had a very uncharacteristic race last time out at Singapore, ended up rage quitting and DNFing the car. It was actually a second DNF in a row, which was very uncharacteristic of him. A lot of speed. And we'll ride along with him, see what he can do here on the on his first hot lap of the qualifying session.
The last corner he went a little bit wide. He went a little bit wide, lost a couple tenth or two from there. He didn't get the race in the racing line, but we'll see.
And we've got Sandro on the live chat saying he's about to go racing in NFL Addiction Germany. Joining us on the live stream once again, saying Japan is amazing. It is one of my favorite tracks. Just all around. I like racing on it. I like watching it. Very good course, in my opinion. Japan doesn't offer a lot of amazing tracks such as Suzuka. I mean, Fuji's gone through so many transitions over the years. Tsukuba's just way too short of a track to do anything on. So Suzuka, for me, is really the best track, especially coming out of Japan.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's an old school track. It's brought many exciting races in the past, and the best track in Japan, like I said. Nothing to add. Best track in Japan, definitely.
So Jensen Randall getting ready to come across the line. He's going to set the first time of the day.
Well, that's solid lap, but it's not going to be enough for pole position here today.
128.402. We got Cameron Weston Edwards coming across with a 129.3. Colin Higgins 129.9. He's a second faster on Cameron Weston Edwards, and Edwards qualified second last week at Singapore and was able to jump Andre at the start of the race. So looking for a little bit more speed out of Cameron as we head in today. Nick Van Gelder with a 129.932. What is pole lap going to be looking like today? Right now, Jensen's sitting at a 128.4.
I think we can take 6/10 off from that title 7/10. We're going to see, in the end, 127.7 or we're going to see 127.6. I'm going to say 27.6 here today.
27.6 today, and that could be coming out of Tim Ventic. And we'll pick him up real quick here as he's heading down the backstretch towards the 130R.
Not enough. He's going to set a high 128. Check the times are looking very bad. He's not going to go P1.
Didn't look like he had the DRS slot open on the back straightaway. Or is that not a DRS area? That is a DRS straightaway.
Yeah, 129.
So 129.1. So yeah, he's a little bit off the pace in comparison to Jensen Randall.
A little bit off the pace, but we have to see. Doesn't look like we're gonna be seeing those lap times what I was hoping for, but Jensen Randall 28.4. It's still a solid lap. It's still enough probably for top 6, but of course I don't know is everybody racing from the fast drivers or not, but.
And we see there's only 2 drivers that haven't set a time so far, Ivan Brito and Alex Benarichetti. They're both still sitting in the pits. Possibly still working on the setup. We're still riding along with Tim Ventic, seeing what he's got in the tank, if he's got anything left for Jensen Randall. 12 minutes left to play in the session. We did see the tour also of Jan Holm off at the S's. I don't think he was just getting out of the way of Tim Ventic. I think he's had a bit of an issue with the car, possibly lost it going through the S's, and it looks like he might still be struggling as a yellow flag sector 3. Ventic heading into what is this? Spoon now. Spoon, a very difficult corner on this track. It's very deceiving. You can take it faster than you think, but you can't take it as fast as you think you can, and I think it calls a lot of drivers out and lose a lot of time.
Yeah, if you take it too fast, outside of the track, it's like a magnet. Like you get pulled into that and you're gonna lose too much time. You have to be like fast, but it has to be controlled. Like, I don't know, it sounds weird, but you have to be fast and controlled. You can't be too fast, but you can't be too slow. Yeah, it has to be balanced.
And we've got Azira 873 join mid-qualifying session. That's going to be Foons Van Houten. He's going to be joining the race, but he won't be able to make it in for qualifying, so that'll put 15 drivers on track today. Tim Ventic just dived into the pits. And we're going to pick up Cameron Weston Edwards here on an out lap, coming off of another podium finish. He hasn't raced full-time this season due to some schooling interfering with the Grand Prix times, but he's got 5 podium finishes this year in a little bit of races that he has done. And obviously he showed some good speed last week, especially at the start Really looking forward to see what he can do today. Third quickest so far. Very aggressive driver. In fact, I think he's an IRL Season 1 champion. But that is many, many seasons ago. IRL obviously in their 7th season at this point. So it's been a while since Cameron Weston-Edwards has been at the top of the step as far as points go. But I think he's got 17 career IRL victories to his name. So
that's impressive.
Very good driver. He's
yeah.
I do enjoy watching him. He's very experienced. I do enjoy watching him. He's very aggressive. He's very hard to get around. And SRL saying that there is no rain expected for today's race. I think we got that same message last week though, and it rained in the middle of Singapore. But to be fair, that is Singapore. I think that's a normal thing for them. They don't expect rain, or they just expect it all the time.
Yeah, it's weird in Singapore. It's either every other day it rains, every other day it's hot. So, but also Japan is also very unpredictable in real life. So who knows? Maybe we'll see some rain in the end of the race, because Japan is also in the weird weather zone. So hey, we might have a heavy rain at some point.
And we're going to ride along with Cameron Weston-Edwards as he heads up through the S's.
Already messed up. Already messed up. Lap over. Lap is over. No. It's over. He went too wide. He lost his car and he compromised his exit, and that's his lap over.
We'll see what his sector time looks like. And yeah, he's 0.6 off of his previous time, and he's invalidated the lap time. So yeah, rough outing for Cameron Weston-Edwards. It doesn't look like we got a lot of guys on out laps. We'll pick up Colin Higgins. Currently 7th quickest in the Renault, coming off of it. Whoa, and he blows turn 1.
Yeah. So
he's invalidated the time, and it's a lap done for him. So we'll pick up Sam Brandt. Looks like he was also heading through turn 1 and now heading up through the S's. Brandt is currently the points leader in the SRL Sports Car Series over on Project Cars 2. Currently running the Intercontinental GT3 Series. They'll be racing again next week, doing the 1.2 hours in Indianapolis, which will take place at the Indianapolis Road Course. So we'll be looking forward to that as well. But current points leader in that. In fact, he had a very commanding win back at the 1.2 hours of Bathurst to kickstart the GT3 season. So he's got a little bit of speed in the sports cars. Unfortunately, hasn't crossed over to Formula One as of the past couple seasons. Very consistent driver, though. He does bring the car home. He does bring the car home in the points. So Team Haas, top 5 in the point standings, I believe, as far as constructors go.
Yeah, and looks like Sam is getting good slipstream from the, I believe he's got a Williams car ahead of him, or Mercedes. Yeah, it's Mercedes. He's getting good slipstream from Jensen, and he gained like 1/10 or 2/10 from doing that. That was very, very good timed lap from him.
And he's currently 1:35.96. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a much better lap coming from him as he comes across the line in a 1:29.562. So he's 1 second quicker than his previous time, bumps him up in the 7th. Pick up Sandro Julius as he's getting ready to come across the line and start a timed lap. Currently 5th quickest.
Nick Van Gilde is coming across the line in Red Bull. And he improves, goes to P6.
P6 for Van Gelder. We'll pick back up on Sandro Julius. Running through the top of the S's.
His teammate actually, he messed up.
Sandro 2/10 up on his previous time. Sam Brandt getting out of the way, letting him go through down into the hairpin. The yellow flag, sector 2. Jensen Randall getting out of the way. Smooth and controlled coming out of the hairpin. It's obviously really easy to get some wheel spin there and lose the back end, but the car looks like it's sticking pretty well right now for Sandro Julius as he heads into Spoon.
Yeah. Looks very good driver. I think he has a good setup and he has good knowledge of the track. You don't push pedal to the middle, you just let the flow come to you, and that's why Stalling looks very beautiful at the moment.
And coming through the 130R, that was the fastest sector 2 so far the qualifying session.
Let's see. He has to be careful of that bump. There we go, that's a very dangerous bump actually. Your car goes a little bit in the air and He did brilliantly.
And a 1:28.630, good enough for second quickest. Great qualifying effort by Sandro Dulius with less than 6 minutes left to play.
Team Ventic put him by 8 tenths.
And Tim Ventic will pick him up real quick. He's third quickest now. Jensen Randall's going, well, still sitting at the top of the charts at a 1:28.4. Ventic coming down and also goes 1:28.4. Look at that, 1:28.402 for Jensen, 1:28.404 for Tim Ventic. 0.02 of a second separates first and second.
Not the skill of Jensen, but I saw Tim Ventic made a big mistake in the last turn. I believe he lost 3 tenths in that corner because he ran his car on the grass. So I believe in last corner, if he can nail it, he can buy 3 more tenths.
And we'll pick up Cameron Weston Edwards trying once again as he heads up through the S's, see if he can improve his time. Currently sitting at a 1:29. And Ivan Brito, just a quick shout out to him, 4th quickest so far. He's the first driver in the 1:29s with a 1:29.274. That's a great qualifying effort by Ivan Brito.
Yeah.
He came home 10th last week. I'm surprised he doesn't have more people watching right now. He's usually got a lot of fans in the stands rooting for him from the PTRL, which is the Portuguese Racing League. Him and a former SRL and IRL driver, Jorge Correa. Correa actually started that league a couple seasons ago, and it really took off in the Portuguese area. Unfortunately, we haven't had Jorge back with IRL or SRL because it's been so demanding and busy for him. But Jorge was a pleasure to watch when he was in the leagues, and his league it's very it's kicked off really well the past couple seasons. So good on Jorge. Ivan Brito obviously a part of that as well. Cameron Weston Edwards heading down to the last chicane here.
I think pole position.
Really? We'll see if this is a pole run. 1:28.630. It was close, off by 2 tenths. And look at that. 1:28.629 for Cameron Weston Edwards. 1:28.630 for Sandro Dulius. So first and second separated by 0.02 of a second. And then second to third is 2 tenths, but third to fourth is 1,000th of a second. So the top 4 are running really close together right now. This is some unbelievable time set up.
Unbelievable. We're going to see epic last minutes of the qualifying. I'm just going to say, like, what's going to be the difference between all the 4 drivers? Maybe 1,000th of a second? Maybe we're going to see that 1997. Was it what? A Portuguese Grand Prix where Schumacher, Villeneuve, and Heinz Howard French were separated by 0.
Separated by nothing.
Nothing, yeah. Maybe we're going to see that here today, hopefully. I'm not sure on somebody retired, but I'm not sure. Have you ever seen
Ben Ricchetti? Oh, Ben Ricchetti! Oh my goodness! Something massive happened to him. His car. I just caught the tail end of his car on the right side of the screen, barrel rolling off of the.
There's been a crash.
And Reese March has been involved in that as well. Oh my goodness! That one, Brian Power's been involved with it as well. He's lost his front wing. Massive crash here in qualifying. Unbelievable. 2 cars out. Brian Power with massive front end damage. Jan Holm coming through the wreckage now.
I'm surprised there wasn't a grid place penalties. 3 cars involved in the same accident. Game decides no penalties for none of the drivers.
So I'm not sure what happened there. Definitely be interesting to get some in-car footage for that. And Sam Brandt has retired from the session as well. I'm not sure if that's... I think he might have retired in the pits. And actually, it looks like we've got a lot of cars in the pits right now. We'll pick up Ivan Brito. Ivan Brito, though, his time has been invalidated. So 2 minutes left to play in the session, and we've got Jensen Randall heading out on an out lap on a fresh set of softs. Colin Higgins, Brian Power, Jan Holm. And then obviously we've lost Reese March, Alex Benricchetti, Sam Brandt, and then Brian Power was involved, I think, in that as well. Lost his front wing. Very interesting situation there, especially with such little time to go. So we'll pick up Jensen Randall, and Tim Ventic is going to be behind him as he heads to the top of the S's. So it looks like Randall will be the first one to start a hot lap as time winds down. Brian Power is going to retire from the session, so his time will be locked in at a 1:38.55. Sandro Dulius is on another out lap. Cameron Weston Edwards is just leaving the pits now, so I don't think Cameron Weston Edwards is going to be hard-pressed to get to... He's going to be hard-pressed to get back around before time runs out to start a final hot lap.
Well, if that time is correct, what we're seeing in screens, because a few times in Codemasters it happens actually quite often that we see different time what the drivers see. It's also a thing.
So we'll pick up Jensen Randall. We'll ride along with him as he comes across the line. Last-ditch effort to try and solidify that pole position. And he's only got pole by 0.02 of a second over Tim Bentic. Down into turn one. Oh, he runs a little wide coming out of there.
It's still okay. If he nails this spot, he's going to be good. Doesn't look like any mistakes, actually. Very, very good. Very good. No mistakes.
Yellow flag, sector 2. Looks like that was Colin Higgins. Had a quick on-off. Might have been Tim Bentic, actually. And that's it. That's it for Jensen Randall. So we'll pick up Tim Ventic. Ventic heading through the S's now, and Cameron Weston Edwards is retired from the session. I think he knew he wasn't going to make it back in time. So Edwards locked in at a 1:28.629, 1,000th of a second quicker than Sandro Dulius for third so far. Dulius is on a timed lap.
But we have to remember Tim Ventic messed up his last corner, so if he can nail the last corner and nail the rest of the lap, I believe that's 3/10 found just by doing the last corner properly.
We'll ride along with Tim Bentic as he heads down into the spoon corner. A little bit of a... runs a little wide out of there.
Looks good. Looks good. He was solid.
And Colin Higgins' time is locked in at a 1:29.998. Through the 130R. Here comes Tim Bentic down to the last chicane.
Oh, Jensen improved his time.
Okay, so Tim Bentic just cut that corner big time.
Let's see. Tim Bentic, T1.
So Nick Van Gelder goes third quickest. We'll pick up Sandro Dulius as he heads through the last chicane. And a 1:26.30. So, interestingly enough, and I'm not trying to throw Tim Bentic under the bus, but for what it's worth, I'm going to go back. Just take a look here at something. So a few weeks back, IRL, International Racing League, made an announcement for the Japanese Grand Prix that if you were caught exploiting the final chicane corner cut, then you would be disqualified from the session. Now, it does seem, interestingly enough, that Tim Ventic cut that corner and picked up pole position by 1/10 of a second over Jensen Randall. I don't know if that'll come into play, but Nick Van Gelder, third quickest at the last moment at 1:28.629, actually matches Cameron Weston Edwards. Not sure why Van Gelder gets third over fourth. Sandro Dulius 5th, Dion Stahl 6th, Ivan Brito 7th, Sam Brandt is 8th, Colin Higgins is 9th, Joman Rusic is 10th, Reese March 11th, Alex Benner-Ricchetti is 12th, Brian Power 13th, Jan Holm is 14th, and I believe Foons Van Houten will be the 15th driver on track. So what do you make of that? I was on board with Ventic when he set that time. He cut that corner pretty hard and no time penalty. I do believe it might be a glitch in the game. You seem to have the ins and outs of the Codemasters coding. What do you make of that?
Well, there are some corners in the game what Codemasters allows you to cut, even though we have strict corner cut, like Monza's, Ascari's, we have Singapore corner, and so there are some corners you can cut, and it's League's mission or job to find out what corners are broken, and if somebody cuts it, he gets a penalty, because by cutting that corner you can gain easily 2/10 or 2.5 tenths by doing that. So if he got pole position by cutting that corner, He deserves a penalty, but depends what are the rules in this league. But if
And
you
to
go
be
to
fair,
ILL standpoints,
to be fair, we don't know if any other drivers did it as well, so it's hard to single out just Tim Ventic right now. But as it stands, Tim Ventic starting on pole position once again. I believe that's a league-leading pole position for him. I can't remember how many he's got to his credit. I know Luke Mathiasen has 7, and actually Mathiasen has the league lead for pole position. Tim Ventic coming off of his 5th pole position. Jensen Randall is going to be starting in 2nd place. He's coming off of back-to-back DNFs. He's going to be looking to finish a race today, put some points on the board. And Nick Van Gelder starting in 3rd, hoping to capitalize on the last couple of rounds of this season. He's not able to defend his championship, but wants to go out on a high note. Cameron Weston Edwards in the 4th spot had a great race last week where he came home with his 5th podium finish. He'll be looking to do it again today. A 2-time winner here, plus last season's winner as it is. Sandro Dulia starting in 5th. He'll be looking to try and see if he can work his way through the field, do it again. He's got his teammate Dion Stahl starting right behind him. And Ivan Brito starting in the 7th spot. Good qualifying effort by him. He'll be looking to put some points on the board today for Alfa Romeo as he runs very wide at the hairpin. So, not a great formation lap for Ivan Brito. Sam Brandt going to be starting in 8th. And Colin Higgins coming off of his best finish of the season last time out in 5th. He's going to be starting in 9th and be looking to do it again today. And Yerma Rusic still sitting at the grid, be starting in 10th. Reese March, who's not had a great season so far, be looking to put some points on the board as he starts in the 10th position. See if he can work his way through the field and put some points on the board for Haas. Alex Benarichetti, Season 2 champion, has come back late this season just to try and get his feet wet and get prepared for next season. And we've got a massive collision on the formation lap between Funes Van Houten and Jan Holm, it looked like. Brian Power going to be starting in the 13th spot. He's got 10 DNFs to his credit. He'll be looking to finish a race today. Points would be a bonus. And Jan Holm also with league leading 13 DNFs out of 18 races so far this year. I'm sorry, 13 DNFs out of 19 races so far this year. He'll also be looking to finish a race. And Funes Van Houten starting in the 15th spot. That's going to round out the 15 drivers for today's Grand Prix. Bright and shiny. Looks like everybody's going to be starting on the soft tires with the exception of Brian Power.
Long first stint, hoping that the safety car will come after 10 or 11 laps. And then he's going to, 15 laps and capitalize that.
Uh-oh, and Colin Higgins has left the session. That's not good. Oh. Possible internet issue for Colin.
Yeah.
And he's quickly rejoined, so no problems there. All right, waiting on the 5 red lights. Lights out, time to run what you brung. They're away to puff of smoke, and it's a good start by Jensen Randall. But here comes Cameron Weston Edwards, and he's going to leapfrog 2 cars as he heads down into turn 1, and Edwards finds himself in 2nd place. Now pursuing Tim Ventic, who got away clean but runs wide coming out of the first corner, and Edwards is all over the back of him, and they got to go nose to tail as they head through the S's. And a good clean start as they headed down into turn 1. Looks like a couple of guys might have lost some spots. There's a little bit of contact between Higgins and Alfa Romeo, and around goes Ivan Brito. Oh no, and there's a collision.
That's a safety car. Oh my god.
4 cars gone already. Unbelievable.
And 10 drivers remaining in the session. Safety car just caught that. That was domino effect. Ivan Burrito lost his car, was a roadblock for everybody else, and nothing nobody else could do. And
that is extremely disappointing for Brian Power, Sam Brandt, Alex Benarichetti, and Jan Holm. Now, we'll try. I wish we had replays because there was a little bit of contact between there was contact between Brito and Colin Higgins in the Renault. And as you said, Brito saved the car from going into the Armco, but was a roadblock for everybody else. Benarichetti slows down and then gets rear-ended by 3 other cars. And, man, what an unbelievable start to this race. Everybody got away clean heading through the S's except for that last left-hander heading up the hill. And, unfortunately, we started with 15 drivers. We're already down to 11. I cannot believe what I just saw. That is really unfortunate.
Hey, that's the danger of Japan, and we have Tim Wendick actually pitting, but we don't have any space. You have grass and sand everywhere, and you make one mistake, and it might cost drivers behind. Tim Wendick is pitting. We have a lot of drivers pitting. He's changing to the hard tires. that strategy is not good actually. We tried it out in IRL Division 1 and those hard tires are very awful in this track. But
well, it's funny you say that though, because it was a couple of weeks ago that we did IRL F2 and Logan actually won the race on hard tires, but he didn't run them from lap 2.
Lap 2, but it was still very controversial race. There were crashes and stuff like that, but he won from with hards, but those are very awful tires. But we'll see how Team Brandt is able to do. He rejoins back in P7, so basically, yeah. But he's going to be very slow in the end.
Now, you said, you know, in Division 1 in IRL, some guys tried to do that. I mean, you're a driver. From your perspective, do you stay on the softs and just run your strategy as normal? Because you basically only put, half a lap on your tires, or do you pit for a fresh set of softs and still run softs to medium?
I think if it comes to lap 1, lap 2, I'd stay with the softs, and maybe I'd do a pit stop to mediums, and then I'm gonna do a second stint and hope that safety car is gonna come once again. But the hards to the end, 25 laps, you're gonna be very slow. It's just, yeah, it works now because there's only 11 drivers remaining, but when you have 20 drivers remaining, we jump back in P19. It's not very smart, but everything Rentic did a right thing eventually, because he rejoined back in P7, gap to the leader only 1 second, and we know his pace, so it might be a little bit different than in IRL.
So it sounds like it might pay off early,
and he lost his front wing. He lost his front wing. Team Rentic has lost his front wing.
Yep, he's got end plate damage, and he's going to dive back into the pits again. Wow. Lucky for him, there's still the safety car is still circulating. And see if he switches back to a set of hards again.
Yeah, and he doesn't have any more medium. So he has to do one more pit stop after this, because I think he wants to do that one stop. So after this lap, he's going to do one more pit stop and hope that safety car is not going to leave in this lap. If it leaves, then he has to do a 2-stop.
So things unraveling relatively quickly here for a bot strategy call, and then getting wing damage under the safety car for Tim Vente. Cameron Weston-Edwards out in front, and obviously he's shown some great pace at the jump at the start of this. And Sam Brandt wanting an invite to the party, so we'll get him in here. Why not? Try and get him in here before we go back to green flag racing. Sam Brandt, who also did part-time commentating last year for the SRL IMSA series, where we're on Project Cars 2, where we ran the LMP2 cars. So we'll get Sam in here. Obviously, I don't think Sam will have much to say, except there wasn't any place for him to go.
Yeah, exactly. Very unfortunate.
And then we've got Sam joining us. Sam, I mean, we caught it on the live stream. Unfortunately, halfway decent qualifying session, but your race unfortunately did not last very long. What was it like from your perspective?
Yeah, so essentially what happened was that Colin got turned into an AI. He got kicked out of the lobby for some reason, and he joined back in, but he didn't want to take control of his car before it was out of the first sector, which is understandable since it is left, right, left, right. And then what happened was that Ivan tried to send one down the inside of Colin's AI car, and the AI clipped Ivan, sending him into a spin and then spinning him across the track. Then Alex ran into the side of Ivan, and then I just didn't have time to react to Alex's car. So I think I took his rear wheel off along with my front wheel, and then I think it was just Brian and Jan who ran into the back of me and Alex from there.
Yeah, really, Ivan Brito's car was parked sideways across the track and really just no place to go. Alex tried to slow down and stop, but this is exactly why I never stop in a race. Keep moving forward, because this is the thing that happens. So unfortunate for you, but good to have you in the booth. I mean, you did some commentating for SRL for the IMSA series, so and we've got it'd be great to have you and Erik in here, both drivers' perspectives and analysts. So you know, make the best of a bad situation. Cameron Weston Edwards out in front, and with only 11 drivers left in the race, Sam, you got any predictions as to what might unfold?
I think people are going to take it a lot more cautiously, but at the same time, obviously, there's going to be, well, only one place today that is not going to grant point of the 11 people who are still racing. So currently it's Reese who sits in that P11 spot, but of course, safety car. There's going to be a restart at some point, and you do not want to be that one who finishes this race in P11, being the only finishing driver to not score points. I can tell you that much. And it's especially going to be interesting with Jensen in P6 and Tim down in P10 right now, since they boxed. So two fast guys are going to be, well, mingling with the midfield, I think we could call it. And Cameron is very impatient, it seems.
Cameron drag racing the Mercedes-AMG safety car down the back straightaway as they head into the 130R. And safety car is in this lap, so we've talked about Edwards a little bit. I was talking to Erik about how aggressive of a driver he is and how fast he's been on the start of the race. I wonder if that'll translate to the restart. I'm not sure how well Cameron is at a rolling start, but we're about to find out, and it looks like Van Gelder just got into the back of him a little bit.
And there we go. He's left the field now, or, well, he should have left the field, but he really hasn't on this restart.
And he's snaking his way down the front straightaway, trying to break up that slipstream.
Oh, and Funz is also keeping up with Jensen. Jensen is obviously one we need to keep our eyes on. And Higgins has made a move on Dion. So up into P4 for the Irishman.
And Erik, we talked about it a little bit when we saw Tim Bentic switch over to the hard tires, and currently we've got one driver out on track, Jure Marusic, on the hards now. 5 laps to 27. Is he going to be able to pull that off and run a one-stint race?
Yeah, easily. Those hards can run them race without a pit stop. They've been designed to do that, but those tires don't get the temperatures, and I think, yeah, everybody else has to do one stop. If he can keep up with the drivers, he might get a very good position, maybe top 5, top 4. If he plays it correctly, but like I said, those hards are very, very, very bad to drive. And as we can see, he's losing already a couple of positions, so I don't think for him this is working, as he's already in last place.
I'm currently watching Jensen Randall trying to work his way around Dion's stall. Dion running a good 5th place. Obviously that helped from the safety car a little bit. DRS not enabled yet, but heading down the backstretch into the 130R. Getting a little bit of a slipstream, closest battle on track right now, but we've also got Nick Van Gelder back up towards the front trying to work his way around Cameron Weston Edwards. And Edwards, and Sam, I know, can definitely attest to this. Edwards is a very, very difficult driver to try and find a way around. Nick's got his work cut out for him, I would imagine.
Oh, and this Ferrari crashed. Ferrari has crashed.
Oh, Dion has spun, yeah. Oh, dear.
Dion is, and he's got to go all the way around the track.
Oh, no.
That's his race over if the safety car doesn't come. But one other driver who we haven't spoke any word of is P6 Azura. Started the race in P15. We never saw he overtook anybody, but he is in P6. He's in top 6 and started from the last place. So very good at the moment for the McLaren driver.
And Dion Stahl does have end plate damage on the right front. Has to go very slow through the S's, and it's such a long way around this track.
And especially also with, Sector 3 and Sector 1 being so downforce demanding alongside with speed, obviously, since you can carry so much speed through those corners in those two sectors, it's going to be very difficult. He's going to lose a lot of time over the next lap.
Well, Nick Van Gelder still trying to close that gap down to Cameron Weston Edwards, and Edwards very good at defending his position. I know Nick's going to have a hard time getting around him, but before that spin from Dion Stahl, I wanted to ask you, Sam, what it's like trying to race against somebody like Cameron Weston Edwards. I don't know how often you actually see him on track, but very aggressive and very hard defender. What's it like trying to get around him?
Unfortunately, I haven't had the pleasure of trying to overtake him, but I have had the pleasure of being overtaken by him. Especially in Russia, where he was hunting me down after a spin on the closing laps, and he had fresh tires, the softest compound that you can get in Russia, and he was hunting me down, and like, it's so like Pulse Racing, when you see that he's just posting fastest lap after fastest lap, and you know that McLaren is coming at some point, and then when he decides to take the overtake around the outside of a corner like turn 3 in Russia, it just shows you that he has the balls to do whatever he wants to do. And also the same thing when it comes to defending. I've seen a couple of times that he's very good at defending. I wouldn't call him dirty, but there's a fine line, and he's a very good driver. He's a very good driver.
It's very Max Verstappen. It's that very fine line between what the rules are. And exactly. Nick, obviously, Nick being a little bit more of a methodical driver. He's been able to keep pace with Cameron. Sanders actually fallen off the pace here. He's outside of the DRS range. He's got a good gap back to him and Jensen. Jensen finally got his way around Colin Higgins and a couple other drivers into 4th. So Jensen Randall is coming. Colin Higgins is trying to hold off Foons Van Houten. We've got a 3-car battle here. This is Tim Ventic, Foons Van Houten, and Van Houten blows the corner. Tim Ventic makes contact with his teammate Higgins, and now there's wing damage, and Jensen Randall's retired from the session. Jensen hit the wall.
He's hit the pit wall.
And that's a safety car.
Yeah,
another safety car, and that is 3 DNFs in a row for Jensen Randall.
Oh, dear.
And now we're going to see soft runners maybe pitting for the mediums. Mediums can do 19 laps in this track because prediction was that 13 to 12 laps with the softs and West 14 to 15 with the mediums. And safety car is going to be 3 laps, so we're going to see soft runners switching to the mediums.
And Tim has pitted again.
Tim has pitted again, switched over to medium tires. I think he picked up wing damage with that 3-car battle between him, Van Houten, and Colin Higgins. So he's going to drop back to 9th. This is good news for Dion Stahl, who had that incident a lap ago. He was very slowly making his way around track. But he'll be able to pick up 10th.
Yeah, what actually happened there, I think, because there's been a lot of complaints about F1 2018 and F1 2019, especially Suzuka in the last corner. There's that little bump on the when you apply power. There's a little bit of a bump on the exit of that corner, which doesn't exist in real life, and they have fixed it for the next game. But what I actually think has happened is that that bump has caught Jensen Randall out if he was applying throttle at the point when he hit that bump. And he is running no traction control, so once it goes, there's no going back there. It's into the pit wall, unfortunately.
And that is an unbelievable turn of events. We were just talking about him. Commentator's curse. I seem to be getting really good at that here lately, but he was very fast. He had moved into the 5th spot. He was closing the gap, then he was 2 seconds behind Sandro Dulias for 4th. But unfortunately got caught out. We've got a lot of guys diving into the pits now. Looks like Nick Van Gelder's going to be switching over to the mediums, along with Sandro Dulias, Colin Higgins, Foons Van Houten.
Colin actually got a penalty for speeding in pit lane, a 5-second penalty. That is kind of strange, since you shouldn't be able to get a penalty for speeding into the pit lane, but...
maybe he had it off. Maybe he has his own pit assist off. And
that could be.
Yeah. And biggest loser, sorry to interrupt, but biggest loser is Alvin Burrito. Started the race with the mediums and can't pit the softs and doesn't want to take the hard tires, so he has to make a very long first stint, and the safety car came bad time for Ivan Burrito.
So that's very unfortunate for him, but I think this is going to be very interesting because I don't recall this, and do correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Ivan has been in this position ever before. This is the first time that he's going to be leading a race. Oh, wait, Colin Higgins has had a severe collision with Jure Marusic.
He's off in the gravel. Yeah, he's lost the left front end plate. And these guys were far enough behind the safety car that they're actually trying to catch up to the safety car queue. And they probably had some incident there in the S's. So Dion Stahl picks up another position. So Dion's making moves on track under the safety car. He's been able to pick up 2 spots from Jensen Randall crashing out. And now Tim Ventic, Colin Higgins with his incident. And Ivan Brito, back to Ivan Brito. I don't think he's ever led a race. I don't want to say he's never led a race. I'm pretty sure he's led under pit sequence and green flag conditions. I don't think he's ever been in a restart position where he's the control car. That being said, he's got Cameron Weston Edwards behind him, and we talked earlier about how aggressive Cameron is. And so now Ivan Brito is going to be the one being hunted. Nick Van Gelder still behind Edwards, and then Sandro Dulia. So that's essentially your first, second, and third, because we know Brito is going to have to pit at least one more time. Tim Bentic has managed to work his way into the 5th spot, even though I think he has made the most pit stops today. Got 3 stops for Tim Bentic, still manages to get into the 5th spot. And these guys really need to be careful under the safety car. Costly mistake like Higgins had, and it could be game over.
Yeah, absolutely. But coming back to Ivan once again, look at all the quality of drivers that he has behind him, like Cameron Weston Edwards, who is a very fast driver. Nick van Gelder, he's an SRL champion. Sandro Dulis tied with, I believe it is Nick, in second with most victories in SRL. Tim Venting, who's the current SRL champion, and Funs van Huden, who is definitely not a slack in league racing as well. I mean, he's going to have his work cut out for him over the next couple of laps once we get the safety car off the track.
Oh man, and he has 7 laps older tires than the rest of the field, so
exactly.
Yeah.
So Eric, have you ever found yourself in a position like this where you get called out on the pit sequence and you're on older tires versus everybody behind you on fresher ones? I mean, from a driver standpoint, does that put more pressure on you?
I mean, I had that thing in IRL Division 1 Monza where everybody else pitted and I stayed out. I was P1 leading the race, doing the safety car, and it was actually pretty fun. But I'm experienced at that point, but it was fun to block the faster guys, and I know Ivan Burrito might be shaking his hands a little bit, but I think he's going to have a lot of fun and try to block Cameron Weston Edwards and try to drive in a clean now and hope that new safety car is going to come at some point. So, but I think he's going to be nervous. He's going to be so nervous.
Now.
And the safety car is going to be in this lap, and
the problem is
what's more nervous for Ivan, the actual restart or the fact that you've got Cameron Weston Edwards behind you? I don't think he's ever been a control car in a situation like this.
I think it's both. Yeah, and here comes Cameron already. That was...
Don't pass him before the start-finish line, and I think Cameron caught him napping. And again, as you said, Cameron going towards the outside of turn 1. This is going to be hairy, folks. And Edwards around the outside. He's holding strong, and I think he's got it. He's going to have the more preferred line heading into the next corner, and he makes the move stick. Great move by Cameron Weston Edwards. Power move on the outside. And Ivan Brito's probably shaking his head going, I don't know what to do, guys.
And here comes Nick now. He's all over the back of the Alfa Romeo. And he has... Oh, look at that drive that he got there.
But look how big gap Cameron Weston Edwards already has. 1 second. And Ivan Brito is going to block these guys for at least for the next few corners. So Cameron Weston Edwards is going to pull away now.
Oh, and a big move! Look at that move by Nick. Not a great place to try and make a move. Oh, and look at the power back there. Crossover move by Ivan Brito. Almost able to make it work. Can Brito take him going into... He's going to try and get him on... Oh, no, he makes contact! Ooh, that was a hairy moment, and Brito backs off just a little bit, and then we've got Sandro Dulia trying to hold off Tim Ventic.
Oh, my goodness.
Unbelievable racing. 10 cars left in the race, and it's lap 11. Unfortunately, I think we've done more laps under safety car conditions than we've done under green. Here comes Tim Ventic on Sandro Dulius. Dulius trying to hold that inside line. Oh, Brito! Big hit there. I don't think Sandro's got any wing damage.
I think he has a little bit.
Maybe a little bit of wing damage, but the end plate is still there, and the same for Venting when he clipped the back of Sandro. If there's any damage, it's going to be on the wings and not the end plate.
And Brito's struggling on those old tires. Sandro's going to be able to take the pass and go around him. Now Tim Ventic's going to be held up a little bit by Ivan Brito. Brito trying to hang tough with these guys on much older tires. He knows he's not the fastest driver on track. He does have an IRL F3 win to his credit, so he's definitely not a slouch, but he's definitely not used to racing up front with the big boys like this.
I think this is what we can call a baptism of fire for Mr. Brito. Yeah. Because, he's usually in the midfield, top midfield. He's a really good qualifier, I'll give him that. He is a really good qualifier. but usually his consistency is not there when it comes to the race, and he tends to fall quite far back sometimes because he gets involved in some collisions every now and then. But I mean, today he has, apart from the spin on the first lap, which, to be fair, that wasn't his fault, but he is currently running with the big boys right now.
And Tim Ventic looking to make a move, and it looks like he's going to try and pull Fernando Alonso and go around the outside of the 130R. I don't think that's going to work. Brito tried to give him enough room, and now it's down into the inside. Ooh. So Ventic.
And behind them, Funs has made a move on Dion, I think. Or is it Dion who's trying to make a move on Funs?
I think that's Dion trying to make a move on Funs. And side by side down the front straightaway is Tim Ventic and Ivan Brito. Ventic going to try and go around the outside. He's going to try and pull Cameron Weston Edwards, and he's going to make it stick on the outside of turn 1. So Ventic picks up the 4th spot. And Edwards now is under threat from Nick Van Gelder. Van Gelder's cut that lead to Edwards by half a second. Meanwhile, Sandro Julius 2.2 seconds behind that battle. Tim Ventic 1.5 seconds behind that. So short on car count has not been short on action. There's 10 cars left in the race. Everybody fighting for a point at this juncture. So,
and that's also the thing, that the championship currently, even though we have wrapped up who's going to be the champion, there's still going to be some battles going on in the midfield down towards P10 in the championship with Dion, myself and Reese, obviously. We are very close in the championship. So they are obviously going to try and maximize their point count from today.
And Van Houten just picked up a 3-second time penalty. And we see Cameron Weston Edwards going down the back straightaway, trying to snake that car back and forth, break up that slipstream, as Nick Van Gelder's closed down to 0.3 of a second.
He's pounding on him right now, but it is staying very consistent with that half-second gap. Because obviously you have a very downforce demanding sector 1 where cars can't really run that close, so Niki's going to lose a little bit of time, and then he gains throughout the rest of the lap. So it's very difficult, I would say, and it's only intensified by the driver that he has to get past.
And Eric, Sam brings up a good point about how demanding the downforce is in Sector 1. What's it like experiencing that aero wash going up through the S's if you're too close to the car in front?
Yeah, it's very awful because your car starts to understeer a bit more, and it's very awful feeling because you get that dirty air, and you have to kind of be very cautious, and you might lose your car at any point. So it really puts you up. You have to concentrate. You have to leave very big gap. You can't follow the car too closely, and it's very hard to do in clean air, but when you have dirty air, it's like, oh my god.
But I think Nick is actually the closest he's been on track right now to Cameron, so there could be a chance into the final chicane if he gets a good drive.
Well, riding along with him on board as he's was the closest he's been through Spoon. He's got a good run cutting down the backstretch to the 130R.
This could be a move into the final chicane if he's brave.
He's gonna get DRS anyways, so
yeah, he wants to maximize that drive out of the final chicane. Then.
And Edwards took that last corner a little wide, might have cost him a little bit of time. Get that DRS slot open.
But Cameron Weston Edwards looks like he's getting a good exit from that last corner, so maybe he's putting all of his focus and all of his ERS power on that exit.
Nick goes deep onto the brakes into turn 1, really trying to set Cameron up and try and get in there. And unfortunately, we missed the pass from Sandro Dulius. Tim Ventic ran the fastest lap and has gone around Sandro Dulius and has moved his way into 3rd. And Tim Ventic is basically on the same strategy as the rest of this field at this point, with the exception of Ivan Brito and Finsman Houghton. I didn't even realize Houghton was on the hard tires. He's running good in the 7th spot on the hards, but Ventic is the man on a mission. He's a man on the move as he's worked his way into 3rd.
Exactly.
So now Nick's going to find himself trying to pass Cameron Weston Edwards, but at the same time trying to hold off Tim Ventic, and it's going to be very much. I think Van Gelder is in a precarious position because Ventic and Edwards are both very aggressive drivers.
Yeah, Tim is very aggressive, but he is. I wouldn't say he's. you are able. He's not as aggressive as someone like Cameron, for example. Cameron is probably one of the most aggressive when it comes to overtaking. Tim is more traditional, I would say. He doesn't do it in strange places. He doesn't try every corner. He bides his time. He sits and waits for the optimal place. He doesn't like to do stuff that is very, very strange or eye-opening. But this is going to be a good battle for the lead.
I think the aggressiveness for Tim comes from his sheer pace in the car. To be fair, it's much like I would put Tim Ventic in as far as his aggressiveness, much like yours, Erik. Just the outright pace that you had last year in F2, making a pass, it was just so much quicker. You going around a car than anybody else on track at the time. And we very much have a 3-car battle now for the lead of this race. We saw Nick Van Gelder try and make a move coming out of turn 1, and now Van Gelder trying to hold off Tim, but also make a move on Cameron.
Well, in my opinion, it's that reputation you have to make. You have to make a reputation that you're a dangerous driver. Nobody messes around with you. If somebody sees you behind you, they know you're going to make a dive bomb. They're not going to make it too hard for you, and that's the reputation you really want to have in a league racing. You're aggressive, you take your place, you're not there to make friends, you're there to race, and that's it. That's how you win races.
Very much Ayrton Senna mentality there. We see Nick's car sliding around a lot now, and I'm wondering, is that from the tires or is that from aero wash?
It could be both, to be honest, but Nick is not known for being soft on his tires. He is very aggressive on his tires, and he's not really good with tire wear. That's one of his biggest problems.
Nick, that's very true, and I will definitely say, watching Nick over the past couple seasons, Nick is very much very Schumacher-esque. He likes a very loose race car as it is. He's probably the only guy, I think, actually tries to drift the Formula One car if he could. So he's definitely not easy on the tires. He definitely likes a loose setup, but with that loose setup comes a lot of speed, and surprisingly, he's not been able to get around Cameron Edwards, and Edwards' car looks a little bit more planted than Van Gelder's. So Nick's starting to struggle a little bit, probably tire wear and tire temperatures probably going to be an issue. Erik, I mean, from a medium tire standpoint, I mean, how much wear can they take before they start becoming less grippy, for lack of a better term?
Lap 17, lap 16. That's going to be the place where they're going to be very awful. So I think 9-8 more laps, and then we're going to see very worn medium tires. Another thing, Cameron Edwards, he has very good straight line speed. He focuses his exit on the last corner, and even though Nick Van Gelder and the rest of the guys have the areas open, he still drives as fast as them in a straight line. So his setup is perfect for defending.
That's kind of nice having two drivers in here. So you take the knowledge that Erik has, and he says lap 16 and 17 from a general standpoint. Sam, that being said, the experience and knowledge that you have of Nick, 16 and 17, Nick's probably not going to make it that far in the run. When do you think his tires are actually going to give up from a personal standpoint on him?
It's very difficult to say. I think it's going to be, as Erik said, oh, here comes Tim.
Tim to the inside. Nick tried making a move on Cameron and not able to make it work. And as this battle continues, Sandro Dulius is actually closing in on this battle. He's only 1.3 seconds behind Tim Ventic.
He could profit from this if they decide to take each other off at some point. And I think that's what he is like, sitting in the Ferrari right now thinking, I wish that Red Bull lost it. Oh, I say that.
And a little bit of a
keep saying. Come on.
Tim Ventic with a little bit of a bump and run to Nick Van Gelder.
I was actually about to say that he's probably thinking, I wish that Red Bull would straight line a corner or something and take the McLaren off and then spin into Tim or something like that. And then Nick locks up the brakes. But yeah.
And we've got
I think
Quentin Beckind on the live chat saying hi, so good to have you with us for sure. We're watching a 3-car battle between Cameron Edwards, Nick Van Gelder, and Tim Ventic for the top spot.
Tim is going to have it here.
Ventic going to try and go around the outside, Fernando Alonso style at the 130R, and it looks like he might get it this time. Oh, Nick slides out, trying to hold on that position, but Ventic's going to go down the inside at the chicane. He's going to outbrake him, but Van Gelder's not giving up the spot. Van Gelder hanging tough. Now can Van Gelder hold off Ventic heading down into turn 1?
I don't think so. It's going to be very difficult.
Oh, to the inside! He's going to squeeze him!
This is racing.
Ventic, I think Ventic's getting a little angry about Van Gelder here. Getting a little upset with the defending going on. And Cameron Weston Edwards is loving this. Edwards is loving the fact that he doesn't have to worry about Van Gelder right now. And Sandro has now closed down that gap to under a second. So this is becoming a 4-car battle for the lead of this race.
But the interesting thing... Yeah, go ahead, Erik.
I keep saying. Yeah,
oh, there we go! No!
And there it is, a little bit of contact between Nick and Ventic.
Yeah. I was about to say, 2 Dutch drivers, somebody's gonna crash soon, but I didn't get to say it, but yeah, very unfortunate for Nick Van Gelder.
I think he might, that might be the tire wear coming into play there, unfortunately. Otherwise it could just be that he locked his brakes, because that was a very strange move. You don't usually make a move into the first deck. Now, if you have to make a move into a deck, now, you usually take the second one, because it is slower, it's a more well, it's a sharper angle, so it's a better overtaking place.
The Degna 1 is the one where you really want to try and maintain the pace through Sector 1. Degna 2 is obviously a little bit slower, and like you said, a bit of a sharper angle, so it's a bit of a more braking area. But now we've got the battle here. Cameron Weston Edwards is going to try and hold off Tim Ventic. Ventic, your current champion, he locked that up a few rounds ago. Edwards racing for pride. Would love to walk away with a win this season after the season that he's had.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Tim Ventic didn't open his DRS in that straight line, so are we seeing a DRS failure from that Renault car? That, if he has a DRS failure, that might be very crucial of trying to overtake. Because we know Cameron Weston Edwards' setup, he is very fast in a straight line, and if Tim Ventic doesn't have the DRS, it's going to be very long.
He's also going to be playing to Sandro's favour, who's behind him, who I would imagine has DRS, because he's going to have more speed than Venting coming down that DRS straight then.
We'll have to keep an eye on that as they head down, what's the back straightaway coming out of Spoon? Is that the other DRS sector?
I don't think there's only one DRS straight on this track. One of the only tracks that actually has one. I think the only other one is Monaco, but I could be wrong.
No, Monaco has definitely only got the one on the front straightaway, and it's really just there for show, because it's not long enough to make anything happen.
But I think Suzuka and Monaco are the only 2 tracks that actually have only one DRS straight, but I could be wrong.
Oh, no. Edwards runs very wide. He tried to take the defensive line away. He's going to be late on the brakes. He's going to cut the corner a little bit, gets back to the inside, and Ventic is just cutting the corner big time. But he gives the position back, but let's see here. We're going to ride along with Tim. Tim does not have the DRS slot open. Now, Sandro does, and Cameron Weston Edwards actually has the DRS slot open on his car. So he was behind Tim at the timing loop.
So the detection point, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Erik, but I'm not sure, but isn't it right after 130R?
It's basically, do you know the... before that corner, but Kimi made his overtake on Hulkenberg. Yeah, the detection zone, it's right before that braking point, I think. It's
and Cameron was behind Tim at that point, so he would have got the detection point in his favor.
Yeah.
So we still don't know if Ventic is struggling with a DRS failure or not, but we know he is struggling to find a way around Cameron Weston Edwards. And Sandro, again, I think Sam's right. Sandro looks like he might just be biding his time and keeping his distance. I think he knows how aggressive Cameron is. And Sandro, I mean, obviously it paid off with Nick. Nick, he still hasn't pitted with those tires. He's still running around in 5th. But he's running by his lonesome. He's 7.5 seconds behind Dion and 4.5 seconds in front of Funz. So but we're still watching this 3-car battle for the lead. This is unbelievable racing.
Tim could have a look down or around the outside here if he's no, he's going to bide his time and wait to the DRS straight.
Now this would be exactly. This would be the definitive moment if we know Tim has DRS or not, and it is open. It looks like.
Is it going to be enough though? Cameron sends him to the outside. That's interesting. Here we go.
Oh, and Cameron.
That's beautiful defending from Cameron. Beautiful defending.
And the thing is, Tim is not going to make a move into Sector 1. Like, there's no way. He needs a drive. He needs to keep the continuing drive from turn 1 if he wants to make a move into the S's.
He can actually do it after hairpin.
Yeah, true.
That's really the only spot you can do. We saw Van Gelder make a move at the hairpin earlier in this race. I think he caught Ivan Brito napping at it on that corner, so doesn't look like Tim's going to try and make it here, but he could get a good run coming out of here. He's almost to the gearbox, and we've got a virtual safety car. Oh, it's Colin Higgins! Oh, what has happened to Colin Higgins? We'll try and pick up Jurgen Rusic and see if we can see Higgins' car.
Corner 4.
He's spun in the S's.
Yeah, corner 4.
We see his car off to the left as we head through here. Yep, he's off to the left there into the wall, and Colin Higgins coming off of such a good race last time out. He finished 5th last week at Singapore. Good effort today. Now, Sam, you're one of the stewards. Correct me if I'm wrong, but even though he's classified 10th, he didn't finish enough of the race to get the points?
No, in SRL we do it the way that if you finish in the top 10 without getting disqualified, disqualification is the only thing that can rob you of a finishing position, but if you DNF in a points paying position, you still get the points.
So Colin Higgins will get the point. We're back to green flag racing, and again, Tim Bentic with the DRS slot open. Cameron Edwards making him go the long way around, which is interesting because Edwards he's making Tim go the long way around, but when Cameron wanted to make the move on Ivan Brito, he went long way around to make it happen. So, but Cameron loses the front end of the car at the S's and then almost lost the back end. So tire wear might be starting to be an issue. We're creeping in on that lap 15, 16, 17 area that Erik talked about earlier, so tire wear going to become an issue. Who's going to be the first driver to try and run the undercut? Or do you try and go all the way to the end at this point? Erik, do you go for softs?
All the way to the end. All the way to the end. All the way
you
to
have
nowhere.
to go.
Yeah, these guys can still take 80%, I think, or 77, 78%. The puncture line is 75, so you go to the end.
But we're going to have a situation that Erik described for us here, that Tim could get a run into Spoon. Oh,
he's very close to making that happen.
He needs a good run out of Spoon if he wants to stay close to him into the chicane. But the thing is, do you want to overtake into the chicane? Because then you're most likely going to have someone with DRS sitting behind you down the DRS straight. But here we go again. Oh dear.
Cameron Edwards running that. He's running it's very much like an IndyCar line coming through 130R. He's kind of letting the car glide out towards the outside line.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Tim Bentic is going to easily get around him, but Edwards not one to let things go. Down in the turn. Oh my goodness! Bentic late on the brakes, but he's going to try a crossover move, and you can't go side by side through the S's. And Edwards retains the spot. And Higgins has officially left the session.
That was like Valtteri and Lewis in Silverstone. Remember they overtake in Sector 1 and then Bottas came back in the corps. This was basically the same. Beautiful
racing.
Beautiful, that's beautiful.
And the thing was, we actually thought that Tim had that move covered, but then he runs deep into turn 1 and gives Cameron a little bit of a... Like, he only gives him a tip of his finger and Cameron just grabs the whole hand and says, very much thank you.
So, if you're Sandro in this position, laps are winding down. I mean, do you just continually run in third and hope that something happens, or at some point do you got to pull the trigger and go, I got to go for second, I got to go for the win? What do you do if you're Sandro in this situation?
I think, honestly, at the moment, the wisest thing is to stay behind these two, because if he gets involved, it could end in tears for all three of them. But I think once we get on to maybe the penultimate lap, he's going to have to start thinking about, if they haven't crashed yet, obviously, I need to make a move myself now on Tim at some point. But it's going to be very difficult because Tim has the DRS on Cameron, and that is what is keeping him in front of Sandro, it seems.
And again, Cameron to the inside. Ooh! Late into the brakes, and it looks like Tim's got it done this time. Now, can Cameron Edwards get it back?
Nah, I think the pace difference is very big, and he will lose 1 second this lap.
Yeah, I think Cameron he has a bit of a different driving style. If you compare Tim and Cameron, Tim tries to stay as much away from the curbs as possible, whereas Cameron, he's happy to ride them like no tomorrow. So, and curbs do wear your tires, so I would imagine that Cameron could have a little bit more tire wear. Not a lot, but a significant much more.
And as we know, the curbing in this game is, for whatever reason, very unforgiving. It's weird when you ride on board, in an actual F1 car on track and see how much curbing they use. It's amazing to me how much curbing F1 cars use, and the drivers try to exploit it as much as possible. But that doesn't translate into the handling characteristics of the Codemasters gaming for some reason. The curbs very much call a lot of people out. You lose a lot of traction for some reason. So it's like polar opposite as what it should be in reality.
Yeah, and that's very unfortunate because...
Team Ventic 3-second penalty?
Now that could come into play. I don't know if Cameron has one or not.
We don't want to know.
We don't want to know.
We don't want to know. We don't want to know. We don't want to know. We don't want to know.
Yeah, we don't want to know. We don't want to know. Keep us in suspense. Because we're currently watching Sandra. Sandra trying to find a way around Cameron Weston Edwards now with 2 laps to go. And Sandra and Cameron, I mean, very much for a long time have always classified themselves as on-track rivals, off-track friends. Obviously, SRL and IRL started around the same time as each other. Both guys, I mean, they raced, obviously Cameron does SRL and IRL racing in both leagues, and it's funny that I think Cameron actually puts more effort into racing in this league than he does the actual league that he started many years ago. So it's good to see him on track.
Yeah,
but
it's kind of strange to see that.
And obviously, as Erik said, how much time Cameron would lose as soon as Tim got out in front, and it is 2 seconds. Easily, so I'm wondering if he's actually holding up Sandro at this point a little bit. Oh, and he runs very wide there. Sandro able to close in at Spoon and see if he can get a good run coming out of Spoon. Ooh. Oh, it looks like Sandro's struggling with a little bit of wear as well. The back end snapped out on him.
Yeah. But that is the thing about these drivers. They race on the limit and nothing else is worth even trying. They don't take no fun answer. It's like either
and Edwards with a big slip coming out of there.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! And Sandro is trying to stick with him. Edwards is not going to make it easy. Tries to pinch him down to the inside. Sandro's going to stuff it down the inside, push him wide, and Sandro's going to get that spot heading into turn 1 on the last lap. Can he hold off Cameron for this lap? Cameron is not going to go silently into the night for sure.
Yeah.
Sandro able to gap him a little bit through the S's, and I think that is going to be the nail in the coffin.
The interesting thing is now, if Sandro closes down 1/10 or 2/10 on Tim Venting, he's not going to do it with that.
That's it. No, it's over.
But if he can close him down in the last couple of sectors, he could take the victory. But looks like Tim is pulling away, unfortunately for Sandro.
And Sandro, I'm not even sure he's aware that Tim's got that 3-second penalty, but Sandro would really have to sail the car down into Spoon and down into the last hairpin. But now he picks up a 3-second time penalty, so it's all for naught at this point. The only thing would be is if Tim Ventic picks up another 3-second time penalty here in the last couple of corners as he heads through the 130R for the last time. Unbelievable run from Tim Ventic today. Made the most pit stops. And it looks like he cuts that corner just a little bit.
No penalty though, so it's all good.
And he's going to come across the line. Sandro Dulius. Dulius is second. Cameron Weston Edwards is third. Dion Stahl with a quiet run to fourth after he had that incident where he spun early on at the S's, had the wing damage. Actually, he didn't spin at the S, he spun at the hairpin. Comes home fourth. And Nick Van Gelder is going to be probably kicking himself in the butt for what happened to him as he was trying to battle it out with Cameron and Tim. He's going to come home fifth. Ivan Brito behind him on the soft tires with a good run to sixth spot. Foons Van Houten running the hard tires for 18 laps, trying to hold off Reese March.
Oh. But Reese does get the position.
Reese gets the position, though, due to penalties. So Foons drops to eighth, and Jur Marusic very, very far behind. Looks like he put on the soft tires here at the last minute. See if he can run the fastest lap in this race and pick up the extra championship point. I don't think Ura's got that type of speed, unfortunately, even on the soft tires. But he'll come home ninth. And all in all, 15 drivers started this race. Only 9 of them are going to finish. Colin Higgins will pick up the last remaining point, but Jensen Randall with his 3rd DNF in a row. Brian Power with his 11th DNF of the season. Sam Brandt obviously out. He's been with us in the booth. Alex Benarichetti, his comeback to SRL has not gone the way that he's wanted. And Jan Holm picks up another DNF, unfortunately, leading the league now with 14 DNFs in 20 races. Yeah. So quite unbelievable race, to be honest with you. That's the don't see that type of race. We haven't seen that a lot this year, that long of a battle for the lead. Really good to see Edwards on the podium again. That's his 6th podium finish of the season. Sandro Julius back on the podium. Obviously won the race here last year, backs it up this year with a podium finish. So that's at least 2 wins and a podium for Sandro here that I know of.
Yeah, and unfortunately I don't recall back to Season 1 and Season 2 where we didn't stream the races. I can't remember back then. But he was definitely on the podium in Season 1, but I don't know what position.
He did win Season 1, and he won last year. And right. Sandro, that is actually his 4th podium of the season, so good on him. Tim Bentic, your winner. Sandro Julius is 2nd. Cameron Weston Edwards 3rd. Dion Stahl is 4th. Nick Van Gelder 5th. Ivan Brito 6th. Reese March is 7th. Foons Van Houten is 8th. Jan Marusic is 9th, and the last of the cars remaining on track. Colin Higgins was the first one of the DNFs. He still will get that championship point, and it's all DNFs from there. Colin Higgins, Jensen Randall, Brian Power, Sam Brandt, Alex Benarichetti, and Jan Holm. And quite an adventurous race, and obviously we look forward to finishing off the season. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be at Brazil, and Sam, next week we'll be running the SRL Intercontinental GT3 Challenge at Indianapolis.
Yes.
So we can look forward to that. Erik, I mean, being in the booth again, always a pleasure. What did you make of today's race?
Very interesting. We knew after that 4-car crash we might have a very, very controversial Grand Prix ahead of us. And the battle between Cameron Weston Edwards and Tim Bentic and Nick Van Gelder, it really gave the audience what it really wanted to see. We saw aggressive fighting, overtaking, defending. It felt like I was watching a race from the 1990s. It just looked beautiful. It looked big balls for everybody.
And Sam, unfortunately, you weren't on track very long, but from your perspective, what's it like being in the booth and watching your counterparts on track like that?
It's interesting because it does give you an insight to how they race as drivers. Because obviously when you're in the car you don't really get to see that. And so it is very interesting. Obviously I would have liked to be being out on track because I have a teammate that I need to beat in the championship. But, well, that's going to have to wait to Brazil then. Well, there's only going to be 2 points between us because he did pick up 4 points. So that's good.
Well, for what it's worth, you are the points leader in the GT3 series on Project Cars 2, so you do have that going for you, and that's going to be next week.
Yeah, it is what it is, I suppose. We're just going to have to come back in Brazil, and I will put my head on the block and say that's going to be a banger, because last race of the season, Brazil, it's a really good track. It has thrown a couple of good races last year. 2 teammates came together. One of them were in the championship fight.
That was definitely an unbelievable race last season.
And obviously, we saw the championship go the whole way last year. We don't have the pleasure this year because Tim has wrapped it up, as you said, a couple of rounds ago. But there's still going to be a lot of pride to fight for, and especially in the midfield, which is going to be around P8 to P15 in the championship. There's still going to be a lot of fighting there, so tune in for that. I would highly recommend that.
So guys, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and comment to the YouTube channel. Check out all the previous races from this season. You can also check out the Intercontinental GT3 series. You can also check out the SRL IMSA PC2 series. That was a lot of fun to watch. Next week, we'll be doing the PC2 race, Intercontinental GT3 Challenge. 1.2 hours of Indianapolis. We'll be running around the Indianapolis road course. And in 2 weeks' time, we're going to finish off Season 5 of Formula 1 at Brazil, a proper track. I can't believe it's not on the calendar anymore going into the next season. But like, subscribe, and comment. Get caught up on all the videos. And for sure, check out last season's Brazil Grand Prix. That was a thriller, as Sam said, going down to the wire and teammates colliding at the end. Unbelievable race. Francis McGinn has not been back to SRL since. So check us out next week for Project Cars 2. Check us out in 2 weeks' time for F1. I'm KAMIKAZE-FOX. This has been Erik Penninton and Sam Brandt. We will see everybody at the next round.